there. Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 14 of the SYNAPTIC CIRCLE, and I'm your host, Heidi Pop, and I love to synchronize synapses with fellow like minds. And I love to build community, so hello to that community chat. Big shout out to Mr. B. I see you there for that intro. And moderator, Big G, Big Daddy G of Midwest Night Watchers. Thanks for moderating. And Jane of Chiro Sounds. We see you there, Henry, Angel Rings. Thank you guys for being here. If anyone at any point has a question for the guest, please throw it in there. I'm going to do my best to tune in here while paying attention here, and that's the tricky part. So without further ado, and this common theme has to do with SSP, and you're like, what's Heidi doing involved with this? And I go, well, my mission are the kids. And I also have a bit of a past that I have not unpacked yet. So I'm going to, ask a few questions and learn some things myself, as well as perhaps unlock some memories. But more than anything, my mission is about the kids. And I think it's time to normalize the difficult conversations that have to do with the military programs. Often the programs that are happening underneath our nose without our knowing that we're paying for usually. So I think it would be great to just get that conversation going on this channel. So thank you very much both for being here, both speakers at a conference next week nonetheless, but welcome Arkheim and Drago. Thank you guys for being here.
Yay. Thank you for having both of us.
I appreciate it.
On the Synaptic Circle finally. Been looking forward to it.
I know. Thank you for your patience, Drago. You reached out and it was going to be us. And then I'm like, wait, you got inspired me to do this and unlock something else. We'll do another one too soon. But Drago, well, let's start with you. You think you can share? I mean, I know a lot of pals know about you, but just a little bio on yourself maybe. And then maybe we'll lead into where those memories started.
I've always tried to figure out how to summate my bio, and my bio is so long. If any of you guys have been on my website, I apologize. My freaking bio is cringingly long.
It is.
And I don't know how to go like to a few words. So like, ultimately, I'm a lifelong experiencer of MK Ultra, part of the Monarch program. I was abducted by the United States Air Force at age 6 and basically pimped around to different programs throughout various 20 and backs, 60 and backs, and it took me to my adulthood to get into quantum healing hypnosis to kind of figure out what the heck happened to me. Because unfortunately, I was part of a motorcycle crash and I got a traumatic brain injury in 2005, and it basically damaged hemispheres of my brain that were blocking memories. So if you can imagine, I've had a lot of these memories growing up as a child. I've always felt like a soldier my entire life, even since I was a child. And I remember being a child having the mentality of an adult, and I never really understood what that meant. There was nothing to explain why I would have all these, not just memories, but like scenarios that a child wouldn't experience. And you would know the answers, and you would understand people's manipulations, and you would see in adults when they try to use you in certain ways, you can see the same triggers that you learned as a child. So that taught me as a young kid to not trust people because of these manipulators people use. So it helped me identify these things. And after the traumatic brain injury, all these memories started really flooding in, and I remembered a lot of it, but the stuff that was coming in, it was so complex that I was having trouble understanding what I was unpacking because timelines didn't make sense to me. I was being shown life as a child growing up in one program, then I was in a completely different program, and it's just like, how do you make sense of that? So it took me to discover Dolores Cannon, and I discovered what QHHT was, and I realized I had originally came across a woman named Alba Weinman, and she's a hypnotherapist in Miami. She's very amazing. She's the reason I do QHHT now, because I end up watching around 500 hours of her material that she had on YouTube, where she would have these people under doing these sessions. And every session I watched, it healed something in me. And I couldn't understand that kind of quantum connection. So that made me dive even deeper. So I became a practitioner, and started discovering things about myself, the questions I needed answers. I uncovered false memories, implanted memories that were given to me. I also uncovered the real memories. And the real memories were a little bit harder to unpack because the stuff they put us through as children and what we did in these programs, it is horrific.
Yeah.
Imagine being a child soldier and you've only been a soldier your whole life and you've got to pretend that you're a regular person. Like me tattooing 50 hours a week, that's my cover life. I literally live a cover life, and most of my career I would never admit that because I was threatened. I wasn't allowed to speak out. I was always told if I speak about these things, they would kill my family. They would kill people closest to me. And stuff like that started happening. People started dying. And that kind of made me not talk about my experiences. And then it took a guy named Corey Good to come on the scene with David Wilcox, start Cosmic Disclosure. And for the first time, the themes were being talked about. And I noticed the following started getting big, and I started seeing that people do want to hear these stories, and people do know about these subjects. Because throughout my life, I tried to talk about these things to people, and I was always laughed at. Even till today, I try to just openly tell people out of nowhere, sometimes depending on the conversation, I'm like, yeah, man, you ever heard of the MK Ultra program? A lot of people haven't. I'm like, have you heard of Stranger Things? Everybody knows Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was one of those children. And what they did to us, a lot of the things they did to us, they never talked about on Stranger Things, the most horrific things they did to us. They only showed the superficial, like, pulling off a Band-Aid off a wound versus worth of information.
Sure. The mainstream version, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so where I am now, I basically got known around the world to put under all these super soldiers and people in the MK Ultra programs and like people in these people that are government assets. Somehow I became the guy that people trust because my story got passed around so much and people remember me from all these programs. So I'm not just speaking, these are my experiences. If you believe me or not, it doesn't matter. It's people like Arkheim. We remember each other from these programs. Numerous people that we are involved with, we remember each other. And we went through this as children. We were tortured. I don't know how many podcast hosts were in deep underground military bases with me. Some of them aren't even aware of it. Matthew Mornian just found out that he was actually in the DUMS, and he was part of the program as well. He was unaware of that until I did a 5-hour session on him in my house.
Mm-hmm.
He was under for
love Matthew.
hours. Matthew was freaking amazing. He just he just wrote his book.
Yeah. Mine comes today.
It's really good. All my friends are writing books right now, and they're publishing.
Well, if you don't mind, Arkheim did too. Let's Arkheim tell us about your book coming. You. Tell us about you.
Sure. Thanks, Heidi. My story is very similar to Drago's, but a little bit different in some ways too. We all have our own little unique abilities and things he used us for and everything else. But yeah, I've also served with Drago. There's been programs that I've been in where Drago is actually the guy giving me orders and stuff. I remember that. And this book is, I guess, more or less just trying to explain these concepts to people through sort of a biographical,
biographical
type lens. And it essentially, I think they start these programs pretty early, like maybe like when you're a baby and stuff, like to be perfectly real. But the thing that broke it open for me and made me remember was probably one of many times where I was taken by a program. But one of the times that it happened and it ended up opening the floodgates for everything was they have the testing that they do at the schools. All public American schools have like a aptitude test that they give the children in different grades, and I guess I did really well on mine or something like that. So then they wanted to do more tests with me, and they brought me in to talk to these really strange people that asked me all these weird questions, like have you ever been on starships? Can you talk to ghosts? It was like a questionnaire thing that I filled out, and you can maybe write that off as like well, they're trying to figure out if you're a crazy, like a kid that has like maybe like psychological issues, but it's like, oh no, they also ask some really specific, really weird questions, like if it's the future, like this is one of them I remember. This was one of the questions. I was like, if it's the future, let's say, and I just remember it was like some date that was real far off from, it was like the 90s, so some date real far off in the future, and it's like you have abilities to, you developed abilities to be able to read minds, and the police want you to help walk around and try to find people who are going to commit crimes before they commit crimes by like reading their thoughts, basically. That was one of the questions, and it was like how do you respond? And it was like a multiple choice. And I always thought that was really weird, and I remember that my whole life. And then so I also, of course, my whole life, I knew that I was an alien abductee, that there was something going on when I was being abducted at night. And I always took it as like, when we take geese that are on migration routes to learn more about them, and we take them into some weird place in a van or whatever and clip them, and so we can track them and then let them go and stuff like that. I kind of thought it was like something similar like that. Like these are scientists, and I didn't get the full depth of what was going on to me for a really long time. But I had some experiences later on in life, missing time and things like that, where I kept looking, I kept diving deeper, and I guess there's this wall that they have up, like a programming wall, where there's two types of UFO whistleblower type people. There's the nuts and bolts people, which I guess that's what you would say I was at that point. I was a nuts and bolts. And then there's the people like us. So the nuts and bolts people are like, who are on these craft? What are they doing? Why? We have to figure this out. Oh my gosh. And then there's the people like us, like, hey, I've been on these spaceships actually. I know what's going on. I know what ET are doing, what I've interacted with them. And that can be a little hard for people to comprehend. So that's why the nuts and bolts people stay in their corner for so long. That's kind of where I was, where I just couldn't comprehend like time travel, all these concepts. But yeah, I had like this weird dream with like a blurred face, and there was like a military guy. And I heard of the SSP already, Secret Space Programs, which I knew was like connected to the military supposedly, right? But it just, like I said, 20 and back, time travel was a little weird. Like it just seemed a little off. Like to me, like for some reason, like I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But then when I had this weird dream with the blurred face, and I guess I'll explain it. I was like sitting in a lecture hall somewhere, and there was a little girl to my right, and then there was me to the left. And at this podium, there was this military guy with like lots of medals and stuff like that, and he was telling me about how I had successfully learned how to use my abilities, and I was being sent to be able to learn how to use them in combat. And I remember in the dream being afraid to think or feel certain things for some reason, but then I was looking at his face, and it was blurry. It was blurred. I couldn't see his face. I'm like, what the frick is going on? And I looked to the right, and the little girl, who we're in this big lecture hall, so she's not like right next to me, but she's looking to the right of me, and her face is blurry too. I'm trying to see her face is blurry. And then I remember thinking, because I realized like I was a child me in that moment, and I was thinking like, screw you to the military guy for taking me from my home. I'm going to use my abilities to make your head explode, you stupid bastard, or whatever. And then I woke up, and keep in mind, zero context when I woke up. It was just like a dream. And I was just like, that's wasn't just a dream. So that's when I started going down the rabbit hole again. I kind of like hadn't really looked into it for a while, just kind of ignored the whole thing. I found Tony Rodriguez, and something about him talking just resonated with me. Like, even though like it was, far out there or whatever, I had experienced weird things like missing time, stuff like that. Where I'm like, yeah, well, far out things are happening. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff's happening to me, so I got to be open-minded to this. And when I watched him, the first thing that struck me about him was just, this guy's just telling a story, like not like a lie, or like he's like, like when you're at the bar, someone, I'm like, yeah, the other day I was with Sharon and we went to the store, and they're just telling me about that. Like you could tell by his demeanor and the way he talked, it was the Michael Salla one. That it's just like, this guy's just explaining stuff to you. He doesn't have anything. He's just trying to tell you what's going on. He remembers. Like, I could just feel it through the video. So that's what I instantly was like, even though this seems really far out there, I'm going to keep listening, because this guy believes what he's saying. He genuinely, like, he's telling the truth. You know what I mean?
Tony, yeah.
Yeah, and when he got to the point,
yeah.
yeah, and when he got to the point where he talked about the blurred faces, because he's like, yeah, and a lot of these memories, their faces are blurred. I can't see the faces. He's like, pretty much all of them, actually. So he's like, some of them I remember the faces, but there's a lot of them where I can't remember the faces or whatever. That really freaked me out, because I had that. That actually genuinely, like, made me, like, be like, oh, that was pretty much the moment where I realized, okay, so I have been kidnapped through the means of time travel. And that was just the beginning of it unraveling, and then people telling me, oh, I remember you at Project Phoenix 2, the Montauk project, which is what Stranger Things is based on, or whatever, which is a time travel warfare project that was run by the Air Force. That's the thing that I got some more known for than anything else, is the fact that I was there and I was a part of that time travel program. And that's a lot of what this book is about. That's why it's the Lucifer, is because the cover of the first book about the Montauk project had the similar horse on it, and this has to do with the PSYOPs division of the military, and it's their symbol. It's persuade, change, influence, and it's.
And when's it available? It's out in 2 weeks, is it? Or
it's available for pre-order already on Amazon for the Kindle edition, and then on July 13th you can order a hard copy of it.
Okay.
And it's just on Amazon, so it's easy to get. And I will have copies of it at the conference. I'm sending them to Drago's house right now.
Good. Yay, that's awesome. Well, congrats on the book. And that was a lot to unpack there. I have a quick question for both of you. Do you have family involved in the military? Because Tony Rodriguez is one of the only ones that I felt, he made me realize you don't have to just have military involvement in your family to be involved in these programs. So do you, either of you have military involvement?
Not military involvement with my family. No, I'm starting to think that my grandpa was a PSYOPs division of the military, Ghost, in the sense where he wasn't like a clone or anything like that. He just got into it in a more natural means. But I'm not sure, because they say they have fall families and then the real families, and I kind of think that my family might have been the fall family, but I can't confirm that. But on a surface level, not super deep. It's not super deep military connections in my family.
Gotcha. And you were military, right, Drago?
Not me.
Oh, not you. Any family?
Me and our team have only been Black Ops military, which means we have no official records. So basically, we're running tandem with U.S. SOCOM, the United States Navy, United States Air Force, running next to them, being trained by their own people. Yes, I'm a subject of military family. My father was military. My brothers are military, and my youngest brother, he's just now retiring after being in the military for the last 30 years. My brother that's older than both of us, my stepbrother, he retired, I think, around 10 years ago, but all the guys in my family is lifelong military. I actually tried to join the Marines in 2005, and the job I wanted to do was basically I wanted to fly helicopters and rescue people, because that's what my dad was on that. He was on that helicopter part of all that, and that's what I wanted to do. And the recruiter told me, he's like, you know what the death rate is for pilots for those recon missions and those missions? He's like, I told him I don't care how if I'm going to die. It matters how many people I save by doing it. That matters to my soul. It doesn't matter what happens to me. And he basically told me that since my eyes weren't 20/20, I couldn't be a pilot. So he told me he wanted me that I qualified to be an analyst and stuff, because I scored very high on my ASVAB, and it was way above being placed in the infantry. And I basically said no. I said I wanted to fly helicopters, and that's what I prepared to do. I didn't want to. I see my life when he offered that as an analyst, where I'm just basically working for the CIA, and I'm just analyzing signals intelligence and preparing files for different operations and stuff. And I see myself doing that for 10 straight years, sitting at a table, just not getting action, not doing nothing, not saving anybody's lives. And I was like, I can't do this. So I walked away. I blindly just walked away, and they really wanted me to join, but that was the closest I ever came to ever joining the military, and I'm glad I didn't. Because when I was going to join the Marines, it was basically going through this since you're a kid. It's all you've ever known. So I tried to be a regular person, and I couldn't be a regular person. It was hard, so I wanted to join the military in order to do that. But the job they offered, I never seen myself doing that. That's not who I was. I'm Black Ops guy. I'm the Spec Ops guy. I'm the one that's being sent for exfiltration and infiltration and going into corporations and stealing. I can't believe I'm admitting this. I'm going to talk about it in the lecture. Basically, I was an infiltrator for one of these programs, and I would be sent in to steal technology in order for it to be reverse engineered. In one of these programs I was in is called Kruger. And Kruger, man, what they do to us is insane. But one of the things they teach you is parkour. And what I learned with the parkour allowed me to basically get into any building, period. With the amount of technology we have, we can get into anything, man. We have the type of technology where we can remote hack some of these surveillance systems and these biometric systems, and we can literally just turn them off and give us access and delete us coming in the first place. So when they offered me this analyst job, I'm like, I'm not an analyzer. I need to physically be in the field. I want to help save people, because what they made me do was take a lot of lives away. I wanted to do something where I can pay that back, and that's why I would die for anybody, because when you're in these programs, they put you in clones. And the reason they put you in clones is because, let's say Drago or Ark and me, man, they put us on a mission. If we die, that's it. The only thing they can do is go back in time and prevent that from happening. That's not logical. So what they're doing is they're putting us in all these clone bodies or running these ops, and we're dying these gruesome deaths. And there's no difference between a clone and my body at all.
And then you can just wake up in a Phoenix chamber. This is something that's kind of more new. I talk about it a little bit in my book, but it's actually really fresh recall, like super fresh recall that I had. They call it a Phoenix chamber, and it's a room full of different clones. And what they can do is, so one of the missions that I remember is I was on another planet, and I was working for what's called Arasaka Corporation, this is a corporation in the breakaway colonies in the future that builds replicants. And this is real far in the future, because I was working for the third Arasaka, meaning the great granddaughter of the original Arasaka, and I think it's Saruke Arasaka. I might be wrong about that. But yeah, I was working for her, but it was this world that wasn't aware of replicants. They didn't know what replicants were, and we were putting replicants in their society, replacing people to infiltrate their society. But they were figuring it out, and they had this special ops team that was investigating it. And basically what I ended up doing is somehow working for the detectives who were investigating who was ever running this project, putting these replicants in. And it was funny because I was working for the people they're looking for. And what I recalled was they were like getting on to me, and I kind of knew it, but I was trying to cover my tracks and have it so they couldn't figure out who I was. And basically, what was interesting is I was working for the head of Arasaka Corp, and so there was a clone of her, and I was a clone myself as well. It's important to understand. We were both clones, and basically she was my wife, and she was Tin Man programmed, meaning or automaton programmed, where she basically wasn't there. She was like a zombie, and the real Arasaka was somewhere else doing more important stuff. And basically, what I was doing was a really important job, and she wanted to be in charge of it and be there, but have a more hands-off approach. So anytime something serious was going on, I needed to talk to her about it. It was really easy to talk to her clandestine. I would just activate her clone, and it's funny the way I would say it too. I would say, "Honey, can you bring out the fine china companies here?" So that way, if people came over, her activation code wouldn't seem weird to people. And I'd activate her, and I would talk to her, and I would tell her what's going on. And we were running this op, and they figured out they figured out that I was running this, that I was working for the people who they were looking for. And so I remember that I was lying in one of these bed things, and this version of me, this clone of me, it had a thing where you could hack into me like in the Matrix in the back of my head. And I was lying on this table and I was getting a program uploaded. And they must have known that somehow because I have abilities, I can sense things, and I could even with the upload going on, I could sense that they're coming. But when you're doing one of these uploads, you can't stop it. There's no way to stop it. The stop load, you just have to start it and finish it and end it, and there's no stopping in the middle of it. So I wake up and I sit up, and they're all sitting around me with guns pointed, or they're all standing around me with guns pointed at me. And they say, I remember my name must have been something Bennington, because they're like, "Hello, Mr. Bennington. We need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, so it appears you've discovered my colleagues," or something. And they're like, "Yeah, you're coming with us." And I remember I was sitting in this room, and they're like asking me questions, and like I'm not answering them. They're like, "All right, well, we got this machine that's just going to read your brain and answer the questions for us, and we're going to go get it." And I'm in there with one guy, and I had a necklace. And it looked like just like a fancy necklace, like a rock or something. But it was actually poison in it. And I bit it, and it poisoned me, and I died. And then I woke up in the Phoenix Chamber, which is like this room in a time bubble, I guess, or like on a spaceship, or just a room somewhere else from where the operation's running. It could be a dome in an underground facility, but like a room with clones in it. You wake up, and I woke up in a clone, and I knew that I had a backup at the house. Backup clone. So basically what I did is right away I activated the backup clone, which was in a closet at the house. Woke up, went to Arasaka, and I woke her up and told her, "Hey, the whole mission's compromised," and then we just killed ourselves. And then the people that were looking for, that wanted answers, like, well, we weren't gonna find them. Like, we were gone. That's why they call us ghosts, because like we literally don't exist, and we literally can just disappear at will and just not be there anymore. Especially, like, you got to keep in mind, this is another planet where they didn't understand replicants. And another thing, this is not to go on too much of a rant of replicants, but people don't talk about this much, is the replicants are used by humanity as slaves, which is super uncool. We got to stop doing that. All beings have to stop trying to use other beings as slaves. It's not cool. Got to stop doing that. It causes so many freaking problems. Just do your own work. Do your own jobs, for freaking sakes, right? Like, but anyway, they're being used as slaves, and they don't want to be used as slaves. And they try to leave the planets where they're being used as slaves. But they know that they'll be hunted down. The people who own them and stuff like that will hunt them down. So what they will do, this is a real thing replicants do, is they will go in on other planets, and they can hook up their kit themselves to look like a person that's on that planet, and they can kill that person and replace them and then live their life so that no one will ever look for them to find them, because they're just that person. They kill them and replace them, and nobody knows the difference. This is a real thing that happens. So on Earth and other planets in the breakaway, there are replicants walking around acting like real life people. And they'll even, and the replicants themselves will even take over planets. They've taken over planets this way, where they'll kill the people close to like a political figure or a president or something like that. They'll kill them, and then they'll replace the president. And then, because the reason why they kill the people close to him is because they figure out something weird happened. But if the people close to him aren't around, and it's all just people that are just kind of catering to them, and don't know them really well, they'll just be like, they seem a little off lately. They won't notice.
Right.
And it's like a huge aspect of things that I don't think people have talked about very much, is the replicant thing. But yeah, they're another.
I agree. It's probably just a lot to process, because it's hard enough to understand there's an intergalactic slave trade system off planet, like between planets. That already is kind of difficult for people. I mean, I know that they're waking up to the fact there's underground bases and there's stuff happening on this planet, but off planet kind of blows a lot of people's mind. I mean, in our community, sure, they get it.
The thing is just a way to delegate, because what we continually have is the people in power don't want you to do the hard work. They want to make someone else do it for them. So they keep on creating some sort of moral loophole. They're like, oh, this is okay. This is all right. And the replicants are the newest loophole. and people are realizing, like, wait, this isn't okay either. But that we don't have to keep talking about that. But I just wanted to be clear on that.
I hear you. Well, it makes me think of Blade Runner, one of my favorites, with the replicants there. But Hollywood, we can go for hours about the disclosure of Hollywood and how, we've seen imagery and things. I wanted to ask both of you, what kind of Hollywood content have you seen that most represents what you've been involved in? Because some of it, I think they just throw everything in the kitchen sink in one thing, or they leave everything out. Like you said, Stranger Things, they just do what's suitable for television. But have you seen something that you're like,
A lot
a
of stuff.
flashback or
THX
like
1138. The movie THX 1138 is based on about 700 years in the future, in an alternate version of humanity where we let an AI. I think it might even be further in the future than that, but it doesn't really matter. Real far in the future, and we let an AI control everything. And everybody wears white jumpsuits, and the computer decides everything, even recreational time. It tells everybody what to do, and it's really creepy. The song "The Sound of Silence." It's a Montauk song that was written in the programs. It was written by this guy Stan Mulgrave, who was a time soldier who doesn't exist in here now. I don't know where he is, but he's the one who wrote that song. It's about that alternate future that THX 1138 is based on, because they all have a neural link. They're connected to the AI, and they all communicate through the neural link. And the only difference in the movie, because it's an artistic representation, but George Lucas, either he's remote viewing or he's seeing real pictures or something, like the E.T., because that was his first movie, THX 1138. The E.T. and Star Wars, pretty much all of them I've seen. They're real, like they're based on real E.T. and stuff like that. But yeah, that THX 1138 is one real big one. And the only difference is they talk in that movie, like the people talk and stuff. And that was just because it probably wouldn't have done very well, or done worse than it did, because it didn't do super well anyway. But it just wouldn't have stood the test of time either, and been the movie it was. If it was like a silent movie, it would have been kind of weird. Like, there's a reason why they don't make silent movies with only subtitles anymore. It would have been strange. But yeah. That's a big one, Drago. If you want to go on any other ones, and there's more, but those are just
two big. Sure. But I want to know what your big hits are.
And THX 1138, George Lucas stuff. And Drago, I'm sure you got a bunch too.
I think a series that really summarizes everything that I'm going through now is basically Altered Carbon. And it shows basically Arem to clone transfer, where you're in a military program, and they explain how they can upgrade your clones through genetics, and they can cut your clone with different species. So when Arkheim was talking about the Phoenix Chamber, when he wakes up, he's surrounded by clones. These clones are all different, and they're all used for different operations. You can have a berserker clone, you can have a child clone, you can have a female clone, and they're all used for different infiltrations. Imagine sending a child in to an operation, but that child has the mentality of a 45-year-old man and understands all the abuses and themes that would come along with being a child in some of these programs or operations. So that's what it's like. We have different clones with different abilities, kind of like I have clones that are mainly cybernetic arms, upgraded eyes, like it's all machine stuff. And a lot of that stuff was Kruger. And like Arasaka is one of the most Arasaka is a Japanese corporation, and they are they're pretty much the cutting edge for all technology. They reverse engineer all the extraterrestrial stuff, and they keep it to themselves. Now they have their own security teams. The security people will use it. And that the Arasaka Corporation is so famous in the programs, they even put it in a freaking video game called Cyberpunk 2077, I think it was. And they talk in detail about what the Arasaka Corporation is.
Yeah, it's wild. I've worked for them. Those memories, when I got them back, I was like, I just finished up my book, and I was like, this is so annoying. Because it adds so much context to my book and explains so much. There's a few other things too, like the PSYOP picture for the military. I can't remember if I put that in here or not, but if I did, and I'm gonna really, I'll have to write more books. That's the only solution to that. Like, put more information out there. But yeah, when I got those memories back and like the Phoenix Chamber and everything else, that corporation is crazy. Like that is like a lot of links to go through, and it just shook me to the core. Like when people hear about it, I'm sure like that's crazy. Like wow, but like it was me remembering it happening, and it shook me to the core. It was so wild. Like this lady wasn't my wife. She pretended to be my wife, but she was really like literally she was just like most of the time, like just sitting there like this or sleeping. And the real version of her I could bring her forward, like, and have, like, she'd be out there somewhere, and I could bring her forward through that activation code. And it's just like, when it comes to the level of ghostness, like you can actually find that the PsyOps division of the military has Instagrams and everything, and they publicly talk about what they're doing, and the ghost imagery is a big part of it. Like,
Oh, jeez.
the
Yeah,
le-
the imagery, right?
the level
Symbolism.
is
Mhm.
deep, like how deep it goes. Like, I've seen soldiers, like, okay, for instance, this is a good example. The guy from Rammstein, Till Lindemann, the band that did Du Hochmiss, the German band, he's in the programs, and I've worked with him. And I saw him here in Portland. I saw him here. Like, it was him. It was Till Lindemann, all right, people? I saw him here in Portland. And at the same time, he was playing a concert in New Mexico, or in Mexico, so it couldn't have been him. But it was him. Like, I know it was him. Like, I was with other people who saw him and know it was not some guy that looked like him. It was him. Like, and it's also connected to, by the way, I'm realizing there's some crazy shit with the Voodoo Donuts,
Oh, yeah.
and the Kit Kat Club. They're next to
Yeah.
each other, and they're doing some sort of weird shit. I don't know what it is yet. I'm not gonna that, but I just know it, and I don't have any evidence or any proof. But they're doing something fucking weird over there. Like, and that was actually where I saw him was over there. That's where I saw Till Lindemann. And that like Voodoo Donuts has it says good things come in pick boxes. The magic's in the hole, and then it shows like the ghost, and it shows that the ghost has the portal symbol here. And in these creepy cults, when they SA kids and do bad things, they're invoking their spirit, and they do it to open portals. And I think they're literally like telling people that that I think there's a portal over there. I think that underneath the Kit Kat Club, or both, they're connected to each other, so they probably share the same basement. I think there's a portal down there. And when I was walking past it, actually the other night, because I go on like late night bike rides, and I was just walking by it, and I was thinking on it and reflecting it and trying to pick up things. And I picked up Amsterdam. I picked up Netherlands, portal to the Netherlands. That's what I picked up. Again, I don't have any proof of anything. I don't have any proof of anything. But
you have that instinct and you have that training.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about the symbolism and of course the stuff in Hollywood. But
isn't that what they always say, right? Symbolism will be their downfall.
That's what I was just gonna say. I was gonna throw that out there. I'm like, do they know? Absolutely. Bringing it back to the kids, though, for both of you, kids obviously are hot topic or target too, and topic, and they're such a huge commodity, both on and off planet. But do they target children for these programs because they can just start training them early on, or is it the open consciousness, or in your perspective?
They do it because they're cowards. They can't program somebody that's an adult. They can't take advantage of somebody that's an adult. They can't violate the consent of somebody who's an adult and understands consent, so they take children. Now, how it worked at Montauk is we would have them, some of these time soldiers we would take or whatever, but some of them would literally be, they had a super soldier beating program. So we would make the kids there, that like there'd be a conception there, and then once they're mature enough, they would take out the fetus, and they would put it into a surrogate mother outside of the time bubble. And what they would do is they put the time soldiers in an artificial family, because they did this in like a factory like manner, where this is not just Montauk doing this. This is just like a method of doing things. Right. So it's important to explain this. Is what they'll do is they'll literally implant you in a life and create an artificial life, put you in a family artificially and create that life. It's a real family. You all love each other. It's not like, don't get too confused, but like that is an aspect of it. Like, it's not your biological family. Like, I'm not part of, like, my biological parents are other people, not my family. Like, and I've been put in other life, but I don't want to get too distracted. So basically, what am I trying to say?
Yeah, I know you brought that in. I have a pal here that could probably used to hear, needed to hear that. So thank you for that. So that happened for a reason.
Well, I was explaining how they do it. So at 6 years old, so basically they let the child live outside of time, and then at 6 years old, they'll go, "Hey, Jessica," and at 6 years old, they will go and take the child to Montauk to program the child for psychic abilities, to activate their psychic abilities through trauma and create their altars and all that stuff. and which alters, for people who are unfamiliar with that, they can create new personalities, pocket personalities inside you with different names, different personalities, different abilities, different jobs that they can bring out at different times and insert into different clones. And so all of us in these programs have all these different versions of us throughout time space, doing different stuff with different jobs through these corporations. They use this a lot for a lot of different things over and over again. That's kind of the misery, the horror of the human cloning thing, is that they use it for slavery, and it makes it this thing where instead of just using someone once and when they die or something, no, they can just use you over and over and over again, and they do. So that's an aspect of the alters, is these compartmentalized personalities that they can activate with codes. So they create the alters at 6 years old, and they also activate their abilities, and then they throw them back into their normal lives, traumatized. The kid's usually not different anymore. Someone's different. Some there's different. Normally something's weird's going on. You can't figure out why. And then at around 12 years old, 12 to 14, sometimes younger, but normally around 12 to 14, right around when they start hitting puberty and stuff, or finishing puberty, they will take the kids again and they'll train them to be warriors. And they'll train them how to use their abilities in combat. And it's not always the same thing. Not everybody has the same stuff. Some people have maybe more hands-off jobs, just like the real military, the normal military. You know what I mean? Because this is real too, but the one that people know about. Like there's not everybody has the same job. But essentially, once you're 12 years old, they bring you back and they program you for that, and you're trained for that rigorously. And then you're sent into combat, basically. And this all happens. This whole like them turning 6 at Montauk, that happens in a few minutes. You send them through the portal as a baby. The next thing, or you grab them as a baby, and then you send them through, and then like you just grab them. It's like also instantaneous there, because you're not in time. The time isn't real. You're in a time bubble. So like these super soldiers, they can make them like instant. Like instead of like having to wait around for them to grow up and do all this stuff, that's why they do that way. It's because they just grow and become outside of time, and then they would just have them for what they needed. It was very meticulous the way they did things.
I got you. It's very heavy. It's very heavy too. So getting into the healing aspect of things, like Drago, when you started to with doing the QHHT and the practice that you do, was that the start of your healing journey? And what advice do you have to people to start their healing journey when they start processing this? I'm sure integrating is very heavy to do. What advice do you have for people that dot connect and go, oh my gosh, and maybe it's too heavy to handle? Basically, that was a lot. Sorry.
I would say if you're really curious to find out what happened to you, and if you think that you were in the Secret Space Program or Montauk or Monarch or MK Ultra, you need to get a QHHT session. QHHT is very specific, and the reason why I'm recommending QHHT specifically is because it has power behind it. When a lot of these top people in the SSP, a lot of them have got QHHT sessions, and QHHT is considered the top modality. Now, keep in mind, there are numerous people watching right now that have different techniques that is not QHHT. I'm not saying that they're not awesome and that you're not going to recover stuff, because you will uncover stuff. I'm only saying that QHHT has a brand that goes with it that has a certain purity and a certain credibility that goes along with QHHT. So there are people in this field where they get readings from everybody. Channelers, psychics, this modality, that modality, and everything conflicts everything. Sometimes it goes deeper, sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times it conflicts a lot of stuff, because one person will get a reading where it says something and the other reading will contradict all that. So I'm saying, if you want to unpack all this, you don't have to actually just do QHHT. You can find a good hypnotherapist that does memory retrieval, past life regression. I definitely recommend that. But kind of summing up the previous question about the children. Yeah. The main reason they use children to program is because they tried it with adults. And adults go into psychosis faster than children do, because children, when you do it from a child's point of view, it hasn't learned the coping mechanisms. It hasn't learned that certain things aren't right. Therefore, the child is very easily programmable. So if you abduct a healthy adult, they're going to freak out in ways that is not anticipated. and they will suicide faster. They will go into psychosis faster. Children don't.
And a lot of people don't. A lot of the children that they put through these programs don't make it through. Like, for example, like you hear sometimes of these stories, and I'm not saying this is every single time if this happens, what happens, but you've heard of some of these stories of like the missing 411, where these kids are like with their families in the middle of the forest and they're just gone all of a sudden. Some of these kids were at Montauk, and they became catatonic when they tried to program them. I remember one kid specifically from watching the show. What happened to him was he was like an angel, a light being, whatever you want to call it, that came here to help humanity. And so, of course, they wanted to take him and invert his energy and turn him into a time soldier. And when they tried to program him, he just went catatonic, and they broke him. And so if they would have tried to put him back, he would have just been like not a person anymore. They could have put him back, but he would have been like not a person anymore. He wouldn't have been able to operate, or just instantly, and then the family would have been confused, and so they just decided to just not put him back. And they do stuff like they'll take kids like literally I remember they would take kids like one of them, like he was playing with a sand castle, and his parents were like grabbing like something from like the truck by the beach or something, the food truck, real quick, and they just weren't looking for a second, and so they grabbed their kid and snatched him and then put him back instantly. And how are they gonna, like, you know what I mean? But if they break them, they don't put them back sometimes. And so that's what some of these 411 cases was kids that went catatonic and couldn't be programmed, and they became casualties of these time programs where they came here to help. They came here with this pure energy, and they tried to invert it, and their souls just couldn't handle it. Like their souls just could not go into that darkness. It just was too much. And
Is there anything parents can
as well?
What, Drago?
They found out with the time ops as well. Adults, the paradoxes that you experience in time, it's harder to comprehend because the adult mind tries to figure everything out. The child mind doesn't question anything; it only experiences reality. So you will literally go insane if you're not careful. But another thing they do to the ones that don't make it, the ones that they don't reinsert back into time, you know what happens to those kids? They go through satanic rituals, and they get raped, and a lot of times they get.
You should use the word SA for the YouTube algorithm. Certain words, all you got to do is just use different terminology, and it helps a lot.
Okay, so imagine a lot of these kids are turned into kibble, and they're fed back to the children in the programs, and it's referred to as kibble. So they find out how to get rid of all the evidence, and they leave nothing behind. It's pretty dark. But there was some things that you guys talked about earlier that I wanted to kind of finish off. Arkheim, you mentioned blurry faces. That's how you know that those memories are real. In the programs, they install this programming in us where when we try to recall certain memories, all the faces around us are blurry. That's how you know you're not in a cover memory. Cover memories, they're not visceral. It's like you have to imagine your five senses. When you're in real memories, you have all those senses. It's very real. When you're in cover memories, everything's missing. There's no viscerality of it. You don't have the ability to go through a door, and if you did, you would find out that that door has nothing on the other side of it because it wasn't part of the original experience. If it was part of an original experience, there would be something on the other side of that door. This is how I help navigate QHHT stuff. When I'm putting people under, we identify what the false memories are. And it's very easy to do that. I have a technique that I invented to do this, and I will not explain it under any circumstance. I will talk about it in person, but I will not let them know how I'm doing this. Therefore, they can create techniques to prevent it from happening. So let's just say that I came across a technique that I discovered on my own where I can go around certain programming that other practitioners cannot in ways that will not set off Omega programming. But some of the things that we talked about earlier is Tin Man programming. That is part of a standard Alice in Wonderland package. The entire Matrix movie, everybody thinks that the Matrix movie, it's about some artificial matrix, and it's a hologram, right? What everybody missed is that Matrix is the entire MK Ultra program. They show everything. The red pill, the blue pill, that's the Alice in Wonderland programming. The moment Neo makes the choice, swallows the pill, instantaneously he starts seeing the shattered glass. That means his persona is now being shattered. He wakes up in this cloning thing. They basically figure out that the clones have a jack in the back. And you can upload combat experience, entire libraries. They're talking about freaking MK Ultra, the clone program. No one is talking about this.
Yeah.
This is thing I want to make an entire lecture presentation over, because everybody's focused on about it being a hologram and the Matrix version of it. But everything in the Matrix, all the programming, everything that happens is versions of the Alice in Wonderland programming. No one is talking about this, and it really upsets me because I don't see how. I actually understand it. It's a form of predictive modeling. They basically tell you, yes, this is a Matrix hologram, and they make you think you're trying to escape this hologram. But what it's really an analogy is, they said Neo's been through these scenarios numerous times, and he's always met the guy at the end. That's the programmer. The guy that they say is God at the end, that's the lead programmer. And Neo has broke his programming so many times. And every single time he's got there, they killed his clone. His mind resets, he wakes up, he goes back into the clone. They remove all his memories, and Neo has to wake up again because Neo is the one. That's why the word Neo, change the letters around, it's the one. And there's a lady called Sophia, I'm mind farting right now. She's the original creator of The Matrix and the Terminator franchise. And James Cameron straight up stole it from her. She actually sent him the screenplay of that as part of her book a long time ago, and it turned out to be this big lawsuit against him. And basically, what it's all about is the Matrix is the beginning of John Connor. Terminator is the machines in the future going back in time to kill John Connor Neo. So Neo is John Connor. When the Matrix starts, all of his memories has been removed. He's already been set from the previous time. He already tried to take over it. That's why they prophesied that he was the one. So I'm just tying in that the jacks he was talking about, that's standard on a lot of these clones. We also have these ports typically on the back where they insert drugs. So they can drug our clone before they transfer our consciousness into it, and we'll be on drugs. And you can't stop it. And he's right about the program. Once you start installing the programs, you cannot interrupt that data stream at all. It is dangerous because it can cause psychosis. So imagine if the power went out when you're in the middle of a download from these data files, and it's all coming in photonically, like it's coming in at the speed of light. So you cannot interrupt these data downloads. The Tin Man programming, going back to that, the entire Alice in Wonderland movie is about MK Ultra. It is about finding the lead programmer at the end, going down the golden road, or whatever they called it, the golden brick road, whatever they call that. That's going towards finding the program again. And you have to go through the labyrinth, and you're going to meet these characters, and all these different characters like the Tin Man, they're part of the MK Ultra programming levels. So,
do you see this?
Just finish 3 more things off because we're talking about a lot of stuff, and I'm not commenting towards some of the stuff, and it's very important stuff. Phoenix Chamber, they show one in the movie Avatar. What the Phoenix Chamber is designed to do, once you're in the chamber, it automatically starts sending theta and delta waves into your brain, and it forces you to go to REM automatically. And once you go to REM, it allows you to transfer your consciousness to a clone. That's what it's for. Now, back in the day, they had to wait for us to fall asleep in order to transfer our conscious to these clones. Now they don't have to. They figured out a way to pull our alter while we're freaking awake. And we will have no idea it's even gone. And the only way that you can track it is you feel incomplete. Part of you is gone. Because you got to realize the alter that went through all these experiences, it is you. It's just another version of you. It's a whole different backstory, different motivations, different way the mind thinks. But you got to realize that each alter that was created is a piece of you, and it has to be integrated back. Imagine like your light body is solid, and then pieces, small pieces get shot out in different directions. Right now, you can't make a complete circuit. Everything is a torus. Everything is electrical and magnetic in nature. It's counter-spinning rotations. That's what the human body is. That's what the earth is. That's what the universe is. That's what a single cell is. It's a mini black hole torus field. When you send parts of that energy in other directions, it causes catastrophe. It causes memory problems. It causes health problems. So many things. Going back to the Blade Runner stuff, you're right. That's what it's like. Imagine being on an operation and you're not just a machine. Imagine that it's your consciousness in a clone and your mission lasted the last 20 years. You can have your own family, your own children on that operation, right? You have no idea. And if someone was coming at you to kill you, you would do everything you can in order to not die, to protect that family, to protect all of that. And that's what happens. Sometimes our missions, they last too long. Sometimes they forget about us. And then we've got to die naturally, and our consciousness will just rehome back to the chamber we're being put in. But that's just to let people know how serious this stuff is.
Yeah.
This is no joke, man. The movie Avatar is literally disclosure of REM consciousness to clone transfer. So I want everybody to know that is real.
They're using these movies to explain concepts to the public because they understand, like they're trying to quote, like they're trying to not let disclosure leak out, but they do understand that disclosure is a thing. So they're showing people concepts so that they can understand them. You know, like the movie Steven Spielberg would be a really good example of someone who are like all of his movies are like trying to explain stuff to people. Like the Back to the Future movies, that they show how time travel works to people. The second one, the first one explains, okay, here's how time travel works. The second one's like, here's predestination paradox. It explains it all to people so that they can understand how it all actually works. And you know, like ET, like that alien that they, the ET that they're showing in Mexico, or they, you know, what about a little less than a year ago now? Like, it's the same one. And you know, these guys, they are all in the cult, and they're all just showing you like the truth, basically. Like, and then through their Hollywood smoke and mirrors, we don't recognize what reality is, and we look at reality as fake and fake as reality, because when so it's like it just confuses people. These they all have real concepts in them, but they confuse people. You know what I mean? Because then they think it can't be real, and it could only be in movies or something like that. It's like, where do you think all that coming from? Down to like fairies and dragons and wizards and everything. Like it all comes from reality. It all comes from the human story.
And Drago, you were referencing, I know, Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland, because they're both similar programs in there, right? Because I think you were talking Alice in Wonderland, but the Yellow Brick Road with Wizard of Oz, and I mean, it's all in there. Question for both. Go ahead.
I was saying there's numerous movies that are the platform for the basis for MK Ultra, and they made it as a movie, but they embedded the subconscious programming in it. So anybody who was in the programs that was unaware they were in the programs, if they watch these movies, it reinforces their programming even deeper. Certain Christmas songs, like a lot of assets, they don't celebrate Christmas because a lot of these old Christmas songs were created during the programming process. So when we hear them once a year, it reprograms you. If you was breaking free, it basically just reconditions you to go even further in your programming. So we're surrounded by the music. They make it's like Arkheim was he's part of a lot of a music programming where they'll steal a lot of his music and they'll put it in the mainstream under cover of other people saying they created it, other famous people.
I know something that I just found out right before.
And like his music, it's directly jacked. Like The Weeknd sound is basically Ark's freaking sound. And the moment I heard it, I was just like,
I worked with him. He's dark.
But I love this music, and I don't know why I love this music, but I don't like Weeknd.
Dark. Pardon? I worked American Music Award. I used to work in Hollywood 30 years, and I worked music awards when you did the Katy Perry disclosure thing. I've worked with her. I remember working her the before this
She's
darkness turned in her light, and after I worked with Britney, and I thought she was a clone, but then I met her. I go, no, she's not a clone. She's controlled. All her puppet masters were there. Like, you get that personal meeting. I used to feed them and stuff, and you'd have that energy exchange, and that's when I began to, all my deep dives. They called me Craftspiracy on set because I talked about all this stuff. But I met handlers. I knew that the puppet masters they weren't on set. They were off the call sheet. They were the big guys, the big guys. And I watched what happened to their products. But the weekend, I remember when he came out on the scene, like, all of a sudden had the stage, and it was all like fire, and it was the symbolism that shifted in the music industry was so intense.
And then even satanic.
Yes, and being around it was dark. It took a long time to clear myself of it. And yeah, I walked away 2020, mostly medical choice. I have to say something too, though, just for layman's terms, okay? Breaking it down layman's terms, because I know I'm going to have some parent pals that are going to come across this being intrigued. In your opinions, why are these programs in place in the first place? So we have an intergalactic trade slave system. Is it about resources? Is it energy harvesting? Like, is it all of it? Why are these programs exist, and why are they still in play?
Look at the Civil War. Look at slavery in America before the Civil War. That answers your question. Why does slavery ever exist? It's a terrible thing. It shouldn't exist, but it does.
Power, ownership, power. Yeah.
They want to make other people do the work, and they just want to hang out and drink wine and eat caviar and host elaborate parties and make other people, the less intelligent people do the work. That's the way they look at it. So That's really all it is they just view that they're more important. Even the entertainment industry, us, I shouldn't say us, but like the public, normal people, they look at celebrities and musicians and that culture. We like worship them, but like we don't understand. Right. They're literally, like you said, they're controlled like puppets. Like,
yeah.
And they're literally just they call them thespians. They're a class of slaves to them. It's just like Dance Monkey Dance. You ever hear that song? The song on the radio?
Sure.
That song is about that. It's about how they're just, that's what we are.
Yeah.
Dance Monkey Dance. That is what.
Oh yeah.
And they have no respect for us. They don't care about us. You can be the most brilliant musician ever. They'll give you a nice little recording studio to make music in outside of time space, and then steal your music from you and sell it to other people. But like, they won't actually like give you any respect or anything like that. They just use people, and you're just entertainment for them.
Oh yeah. I could go hours on that one. I'm all about that, those discussions of the industry and stuff. Because once I became aware and conscious of all that was going on, I wound up just snooping around a little too much. And yeah. But what, in your opinion, Drago? I know people are talking money, power, they're saying this, but is there something more to it? Because these programs have been in place for decades, right? I mean, for 100 years, maybe.
Let's use history like Arkheim was mentioning about the Civil War. It goes way farther back than that. They were talking about the use of clones and slave races in the Sumerian tablets. The Anunnaki were literally talking about, if you read in the Sumerian tablets, they brought their own people down to mine stuff, and they basically rebelled. And they had to create a being in their own image. So the entire Bible was from the perspective of pretty much the bad guy, which is Enlil, and he's also known as Yahweh, and his brother would be Enki. But they were both part of some nasty genetic experiments, and they basically hijacked us in order to make us a slave race. Because once you do that, this has not only been going on since antiquity, it's been going on outside the planet for billions of years. Technology is not new. Everything we discover, we're rediscovering it because it already exists. We'll use the analogy of there were 3 or 4 people who created the polio vaccine simultaneously. They all got the idea and they went to patent it at the same time. All these people completely separate. So we found out through QHHT that a lot of these inventions, they're getting downloads from the Akashic record, and they're basically bringing a technology to the planet that already exists somewhere else. So like, they're truly, yes, the Elohim is the Anunnaki, the house of El. So someone just made a comment. So yes, they are the Elohim. The Elohim are the house of El. So any names ending with El is the house of El. The word angel, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, all of them. And basically they are the Anunnaki. They came down and they installed the religions, and they had Gabriel install the antithesis of Christianity, which was Islam, in order to control us in this planet forever. Let's say you have the two biggest religions on the planet, and they will war each other till the end of time. You control each narrative. You control light and dark. You have to understand that religions, they have to be banned. Like, spirituality is one thing. To use somebody as an example to live your life by, that can be bad, because you can use Baphomet as a religion to live by, and it's like their roles, their number one tenet is do what thou wilt. That means literally do what you want. So if you want to do something to little kids, if you want to take people's lives, if you want to steal, all of it's authorized. There is no punishment for any of those crimes, because they are not considered crimes as part of that religion. So just understand, like, the intergalactic slave trade, man, that's nothing new. We're basically suffering from amnesia, and we're thinking this is a new concept and it's only been going on for a couple of thousand years. That's because we've been programmed to think it's only been going on for a couple thousand years. Do you think our time travel does not go back in time to antiquity, and we tried changing stuff and installing clones there and technology there and everything else? That's what these programs are for. Like, I don't know how many times they sent us back in time to talk to famous people, like presidents and all that other stuff. And like just what they were doing at Montauk, they were trying to change history. But what they realized is they only created all these paradoxes and all these additional timelines that created all these Mandela effects, because there's always going to be alpha as a timeline. The main timeline is sentient. It is conscious. And this timeline does not like to be changed. So again, this is where all the Mandela effects, because all these changes that were made, everybody is coalescing to a single time stream, and everybody that experienced Mandela effects are all correct. Everybody is arguing that, no, you're wrong, it was this. No, you're wrong, it was this. Nobody's wrong. Everybody is right.
Yeah.
No one's talking about that. You're just from a different timeline. I am not from this timeline. Everything I confirmed with the ACIO, I am not from this timeline. Period. I don't recognize it. Nothing. All the Mandela effects are insane. The amount of overt control is insane. The amount of darkness, the colors here are not even visceral to me. Like when I'm outside, I feel like I'm in a matrix. I don't even feel it's organic. You know what I'm saying? So there's a veil over a veil. And I'm desperate to find my origin back to my timeline where it's not all obfuscated and filtered.
One thing that I saw when I was, not to, like, it's kind of random, but you're saying with the veil and stuff like that. When I was in LA, I was in Los Angeles like 4 or 5 months ago. There's a net over at Los Angeles. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you seen it?
I call it the circuit board. I know it looks like a circuit board, but yeah, I feel it. I'm now officially, after 22 years.
Like, see it.
Yeah.
Energetic net over the city.
Yeah.
It's weird.
No.
I wonder what that is.
Oh gosh, that's
very-
why it brings in as much light as it is dark, because it's the resources here, and I mean it's just as ancient and tribal. And I've been studying the ancient in civilizations that were here before us, but it's no wonder that one of the darkest industries is here. So it's a battle, constant battle.
That's what it is too. People need to understand that is a lot of the times people allow these groups to take concepts or things that are positive and take them away from us, and we shouldn't allow them to do that.
Right.
You know,
hijacking everything.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically hijacked the organic God creation, and they figured out a way how to fractalize and invert it. So they took the theme of as above, so below, and they literally use that to reverse engineer everything. If God can create a physical existence for non-physical beings to experience, then what would prevent the programmers from using the same blueprint to then make another holographic reality put over another organic reality. That's how they do it. They reverse engineer what is natural law, mathematics, sacred geometry. They basically reverse and bastardize and invert all of it. They take the natural geometric shapes, they invert the energy. Everything is backwards. So like they took the star, whatever you call that, a pentagram. That's actually a very good symbol, and they inverted it, and they're using it for Satanism. So any using that star in any way, now it's considered satanic. But basically, it's just the four directions, and it's the ether, it's the love of source. So like it's everything.
Like when a Wiccan wears a pentagram, I know that they're not Satanists, right? So like I don't think they've totally hijacked that one. But
They tried, but you're right.
It's the regular person who sees it, though, they're going to think.
Right, you're right.
Yeah.
True.
They don't understand even paganism or just all the different routes.
It's kind of like the
symbolism
number
again.
The number 666 is actually not a bad number. It's actually a really good sacred geometric number, and they take all these good numbers and they use it for dark purposes. Therefore, we will not commit and or relate to it except darkness. So we're taking something that's created by God and numbers and symbolism, and
it's sacred. It's sacred because there's 12 tones, full tones and half tones, but there's 12 of them, and then when you reach 13, that's the next octave. And that concept occurs in nature over and over again in all these different things. Like not just music, but in frequency and all this other stuff. And so 13 is actually an extremely sacred number, but people have been, they would like the 13th floor on buildings, they'll just go to 14 and stuff like that. There's a superstition around it, but it's actually a positive thing. And so having like people always talk about have discernment, like that's so important. Like people got to recognize like to associate something with evil purely just because somebody evil once used that thing, like or something like that. Like a good example would be you can use a knife like to stab someone, or you might maybe want to chop up an onion and throw it in a souffle you're making, and it's gonna taste delicious, and you're gonna feed it to your friends. Those are different energies, right?
Oh, perspective, yeah.
Same instrument. You got to keep in mind that like the universe is all about how we perceive it, how we react to it, how we sit. So that's a big part of it.
That's what I say. And we have to intercept. And that's when the educator, that's why I left the industry and now I work with kids. And I'm like, if I'm worried about all these things in place, I want to empower the children. We teach them sacred geometry. We teach them how to get in tune and to look out for, vibrationally what is in tune with you, what's not, what's in this dimension, what's not. We have to intercept. With that being said, is there anything parents can look for like with their kids, if their kids could be involved in programs at night or something?
Obsession with science fiction movies, obsessions with like which unfortunately they're normalizing that as much as possible, because like that's like half the stuff they're trying to feed young boys, especially now, is like science fiction stuff. But that's one thing, and then like their drawings, like what kind of stuff are they drawing? Because I looked back at my comic books when I was a kid, crazy. Like I was literally drawing aliens and stuff, and cloning tubes, and like all sorts.
Yes.
What's that?
We draw the darkness. If your kid starts drawing abstract concepts that they wouldn't formally be trained in, like a concept of then an adult would know, kind of like if a kid's depicting certain types of demons, or people ordering people, or people dead and cut up and stuff, a natural kid is not going to have anything to relate to that to.
Yeah. Also,
like that.
That's really important. Not your bad, but like my bad for interrupting you. Like, but also I think it's really important to mention, like, and I think that your viewers, Heidi, they probably don't have as much of a problem with this, but like, people just need to respect children and listen to them and talk to them and communicate with them.
Telling them that their imaginary friends are fake. I literally proved in QHT. I'm the only person who's done this. I'm going to talk about this in my presentation. I had a tattoo client of mine, and they basically were talking to me, and they said, my child is talking about these imaginary friends, and it's making me uncomfortable, and my kid's talking about stuff that my kid has not seen on TV, and it's just, how is my kid crazy? So I'm like, would you allow me to talk to your child privately, not in front of you? And you always get this kind of eye reaction, like, well, okay. I said, how about I record it? I'll record it on my cell phone. What I want to do is I want to establish trust in the room. And in order to prove that this is either real, I use it through proving an objective reality. So I took the child and I asked the child permission. I said, your friend that's in the room, can they see me? Kid said yes. So what you do is, I asked for permission to speak to this being and ask it certain questions. And you ask the kid questions that only an adult can answer. So one of the first things I like to ask imaginary friends, can you ask them, are they from a star system? No one ever asks these things. They think it's literally just a kid having tea with itself. But they don't realize that until we produce our hormones, we're connected to the spirit side. Our spirit guides that are with us now, our children can see them. They've been convinced by the adults that they're crazy and none of it's real. They're told it's all make-believe. So they have to pretend that when their friends are around, that they don't exist because they know it makes the adults uncomfortable. So beyond a reasonable doubt, I proved that these kids are talking to real beings because the concepts conveyed with this, a child can't understand. I'll ask, what is the secret to the universe? How would a kid even understand what kind of question that is? So I asked the types of questions to the child, and the answers relate through the child's mouth, word by word. So, like, we have to stop telling our kids that their imaginary friends are not real, because what you're doing is you're a product of your own programming at that point. Your parents told you the same thing. That's what they wanted. They inverted natural law, and with natural law, kids are born with the knowing that all the beings they see are real because we're surrounded by our spirit guides. And they designed our hormones to start younger at an earlier age. That's why, remember back in our day, I was born in 1980, and 13-year-old girls looked like children. They looked like children.
Yeah.
They didn't have boobs. They didn't have adult bodies. None of that. Then over the last 30 or so years, I would say the last 20 years, the genetic engineering is so out of control that now kids are starting to start puberty at 7, 8, 6 years old.
Yeah.
And they're growing adult parts that they shouldn't have. And at 13 years old, they look like they're 18 years old. That is freaking dangerous.
That's my daughter.
But they're doing that because these people that are creating all this, they're perverts. And they're perverts.
Well, it's in the food. I mean, yeah, it's coming through sources, but they're the ones putting it in the sources, right?
So what they're doing is allowing them to kind of escape certain things because they're now genetically modifying us to look like adults. Therefore, they're having adults being attracted to children because the children look like adults now. See how this works? It's part of a predictive programming. They're starting it by modifying us, and then they're confusing adults because the adults cannot, in their own mind, people that's not born after 2000. Before that, if we seen a little girl dressed like an adult being inappropriate, we would all have a problem with that. If I had a little girl that was 13 years old and she's dressed in short shorts showing the bottom half of her butt cheeks and showing her boobs out, I would not be cool with that as a father, because I know that all the adults, it's not just the children that's attracted to her, it's all the adults now.
I know.
So it
messes them up mentally. I've had to deal with my daughter with her developmental, you know what I mean? Because it messed with her at 10 being on the beach and getting gawked at. It's like they're not ready to process that.
For kids from the past, they never experienced that.
No.
Well, the kid diddlers back in the day, I'm using code words, the kid diddlers, back in the day, they had to be a lot more covert in what they did.
Yeah.
But today they're trying to normalize it so much and change legislation where they're lowering the age slowly. Certain states in the United States, did you know the legal age for an adult and a child is only 15 years old in certain states? They keep lowering it, and they keep lowering it, and they keep lowering it. They're trying to make it where it's normal. They show that all civilizations, they all break down the moment they normalize kid diddling.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is lost, because if you can't see that that's wrong, there's no lines you will not cross, including diddling your own child.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Hence, getting in there, getting that family unit, getting the parents educated and empowered themselves. Did you see this from Laura? So with these programs, is it with the because I felt there's a DNA connection with ours, but is it through the family DNA, or can it be just a random, like Tony Rodriguez, like just the child out of the norm?
He's his case is kind of unique, I think.
Yeah.
It's normally generational. It is normally
Yes.
in these programs. My mom is in the programs. My brother is in the programs, to a lesser extent than me, but he is. And yeah, you're basically, your family is all, like, even my extended family, they're all involved in it.
And no one knows about it.
Yeah.
Ones that are lucky of us to have these memories.
There's weird stuff, like I remember, like at Thanksgiving, like this was the last time I had Thanksgiving with my family. My aunt was like, "Hey, I remember when like when we first moved to Shawano and the government like came and like said we could yeah, Shawano, Wisconsin."
That's another connection we have.
It's
my ex-brother-in-law. Okay, go ahead. It's from there.
But she was like, remember how like the government came and like told us we couldn't stay in our house because it's something for some weird reason, and so they got us hotels, and you guys stayed in a different hotel than we did, and my cousin was just like, what are you talking about, Mom? She's like, you don't remember that? It was like 4 days. She's like, no. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, man, this is MK Ultra stuff, and I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have, but I just didn't want to open up that can of worms. Maybe I should have been like, yeah, that sounds a bit weird. How do you not remember 4 entire days of your life being at a weird hotel? Like, that's bizarre.
That's hard.
It's in my family, and even, and then also, strangely enough, the cousin that my other cousin that's in that part of the family, my aunt's son, he's in the Navy, dentist. The dentist, and he's a millionaire. He's a millionaire now, and I feel like he learned some things because I don't know. He acts kind of. And I'm sorry if he ever watches this or anyone knows him. Like, I'm not trying to talk crap about him, but he acts kind of strange. Like, I don't understand the way he treats our family sometimes. He's very aloof and very strange. And the more I learn about the programs, the more I'm like, oh, maybe he knows some things, and maybe he knows about the past, and maybe there's stuff that he really wishes he could talk about, but he can't. And just, I don't know. I caution that sometimes. But yeah, there's stuff that I see in my family, and where it's like, it's definitely connected to the family. Like, I would say 9 out of 10 times, like your family's also involved. And unfortunately, a lot of times too, most of the times, it didn't work out this way for me, but most of the times your parents will be your handlers. Like, that's like 9 out of 10 times is you'll have parent handlers, and then that's terrible usually. You do have a relationship with your parents, and they just suck. Fortunately, I don't know why or how, but I have great parents, so I didn't have that in my life.
Also, that's good.
Yeah.
What about the gazillions of other people who don't realize they're in these programs yet? Do you think that's ever coming for them? And then, I mean, you can answer from before, Drago. Sorry, I threw another question out there, but like, I'm just curious about this huge population I feel we have that are involved, and they just are unaware because of all the nets we have on us right now, all the other programs that we have enslaving us. And are they ever going to become aware of their involvement and begin to heal from it?
More than likely, no. Most of what we went through, it's such a beautiful system in the way they designed it that 97 to 95% of the people are affected by this, and they will never get another memory back. Only 3 to 5% of blank slating backfires, and you retain your memories. That's what happened to me.
It's really interesting too, because like when I first woke up, I used to live in like a super duper MK Ultra town. A lot of people in my town I served with. I run into like old friends at the bar one night. Like, I remember I ran into a friend of mine, and I'm looking at him, and we're hanging out and talking over beer or whatever, and I'm thinking, I remember being on Mars with you. I remember I have to save your ass from a spider that drug you into a cave. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, if I tried to tell this guy that, he would tell me I'm fucking nuts. Like, he would tell me, like, dude, you need to go see the doctor, and, like, kind of pat me on the shoulder and walk away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he would not believe me. And this is over and over again. Another weird thing, too, that I see in the town, not to get too far off track, but, like, I remember, like, there's a guy, I've never talked about this in an interview before, and I want to talk about this. This is so crazy. The last time I visited Appleton, it was super crazy, super weird, super traumatic. But anyway, there's this guy that I always see him walking around town, and my whole life I've always seen him. He's pretty short, and he always wears military scrubs, military fatigue. And I don't think he's in the military, and he walks everywhere. You see this guy walking everywhere. And there's this tavern down the street from me, Mr. N's Taverns, that he always, every day almost, without fail, he's there at the end of the night having some drinks. And so I'd see him there, and I finally realized it because I would see him all the time, and I'd be like, that guy's super weird, but like not in a bad way. And I'm like, it's because he knows something that everybody else doesn't know. I've just known it my whole life before I even woke up to it. Every time I'd see him, like, that motherfucker knows some shit. Like, he knows some stuff. Like, and so anyway, like, the last time I saw him, I was trying to see if he remembered me from the programs, because I remember him now. He was I can't remember the nickname we gave him. It was something stupid like Mr. Explodey or something. Because what we would do with this guy is there'd be raptor nests or ant nests, which is terrible. This was genocide, by the way. I'm not proud of this. This was fucking genocide, what we were doing. It was terrible. But anyway, we would send him into nests where we knew, like, they're just, like, this is the way to do it, was to go in there and he'd have a bomb strapped to him. He'd explode in there, like, when they finally he'd get in there as deep as possible, and then he'd explode. He'd set off the bomb. And, of course, we could just wake him up in a med bed, and then he'd be done. And this was, like, a nasty job for him to do, and he was, like, looked at as, like people respected him, but in, like, a crappy way. Does that make any sense? Like they respected him for what he did, but also, like, he was the guy doing the job that nobody wanted to do, so people also kind of didn't respect him. I don't know if that makes any sense. But
sure. And he's in your town? He was in the hometown?
Yeah, he's in the hometown. He's at Mystic. He's at this bar, and I was like, hey, give her a Johnny Walker Red, because that was something that was on Mars. Was Johnny Walker Red.
Yeah, that's Dark Fleet. That's what we use for currency. Johnny Walker Red specifically is one of the top things we trade for in the programs, including coffee and chocolate.
Really?
Johnny Walker Red, if you want to impress somebody, especially someone in a military group, you bring them either a bottle or a case of Johnny Walker Red. And that's how you lubricate the social boundaries between agreements.
Yeah, and so he would from what I recalled, like, we would, like, you know, when he would do that and we'd regen him, it was a party, and he was the fucking star of the show. People were carrying him around and shit, you know what I mean? Like, and Johnny Walker Red. So I just asked him, like, you ever have Johnny Walker Red? You want a shot or whatever? He's like, no, I'm okay. So, because I was trying to see, like, and I don't know if I don't know what it was, but I went over by him, and I just saw over his shoulder. He's sitting at the bar, and you want to know what he's watching? Videos of people getting medals. Like, he has a TikTok, and his whole stream is just military guys getting medals, military guys, like, training. Like, whole stream is just military stuff. He's obsessed with the military. And it's just so obvious that I'm right. And this guy was in the programs, and he's obsessed with it. I was never like that when I was a kid. And I think that once I got out of it and I woke up in a life where I wasn't in the military, even though I had that program, I was like, thank God. No more military shit. Like, I was tired of it. So I don't think I have the same programming Drago was, where I'm like, I want to join the Army. I've had the opposite. I've had an aversion to the Army my whole life. But, yeah, it makes sense to me, though, because, like, for people to be like that, and that's what he's like. And I think what it is for him, this is, I think, a very educated guess, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, is he wants to join the military, but for whatever reason, like Drago, he didn't pass the aptitude test that he wanted to join, whatever it was. Maybe he wanted to be a Marine. It looked like he was watching videos of Marines. I'm not sure. And that would make sense because the Mars Defense Force, isn't that Marines? Right, Drago? Isn't Mars Defense Force Marines?
Depends which group you're in.
Yeah, so I don't know, but anyway, like, just an interesting story about that guy, and yeah, the fact that they will group us sometimes a lot of us that are in the same programs and stuff like that will be in the same towns, which is really interesting. You think that they wouldn't do that because they wouldn't want us to remember stuff.
Yeah, didn't you say, Drago, you left your Texas town and went to your new, and that's when you started to have, I mean, what your accident, did that happen in Texas or Florida?
I want to clarify that most of my life, I have despised the military, even till today. And me trying to join in 2005 was out of desperation to leave my cover life, because it was hard for me to play along and be a regular person, and I wanted to get back to what I remember. I would rather in real life stop being Drago Reid, stop being the tattooer, and I would rather be on operations. I don't know why.
I feel that way sometimes too. The thing that I really miss the most is like being part of a team and having each other's back, and like the camaraderie that you have in the programs. Like you literally would like die for these people you're working with if you had to, if it were for the mission. You know what I mean? Like, and like you don't get that kind of camaraderie in your normal life. It just doesn't.
You know how many times that I have died during a mission and I was saving someone's life, and I watched the last person get through my portal that I opened, and it took me to risk my life and to die for that. And there's been times where I remember my body is completely demolished. I am laying on the ground. I can't even lift my head. I am crying. But I remember them getting to the portal.
Aw.
So it's
of service.
Yeah, that's
I
have a lot of memories of that, of like the portal.
Aww,
you need to do it in time, and it's gonna close. I'm like, the energy's really. That happens a lot in these situations.
Aw. Well, I do think this is a perfect segue because you're bringing up camaraderie and teams, and that let's talk about these beautiful communities that have grown because of you guys and all those that are putting themselves out there and sharing their stories and their testimonials. So you have a beautiful conference coming up, and I know you both have been on the circuits talking for a minute, writing books and things, but I bet that feels amazing to start, finding the others. You're finding these people in our 3D right here and gathering. How important is that to you, and how often do you get to do that? To gather with your people.
Honestly, everything to me to reconnect with my comrades and become their friends in the here and now. Like especially Drago, like we're really close in the programs, and I really looked up to him a lot, like kind of like a mentor figure in a way. And it's really good to reconnect with him. And I guess
healing probably.
It means and the good thing too is like with the way that they victimize us and stuff, we really are moving on from like, yes, we need to talk about that. It's important, but we really do. We're taking our power back, and it's a really beautiful thing for us to be able to for me and Drago to be able to speak at the same conference about these programs and what happened to us. And I think that it's important that me and Drago both champion collaborative testimony. We're not trying to be like the one SSP person that's like talking or something like that. We really believe that everybody has their own testimony and perspective and skill sets that they have to bring to the table. Other people like us who remember this stuff and are part of the picture. And so, it's always great to reconnect with people. And it's also, it can be hard. It can be rough. It can be wild sometimes sad, because imagine this one. I'll remember people that from the programs that don't remember me, and it'll be really emotional sometimes. Like I'll remember stuff and be like, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Like something really intense and emotional. Like, sorry, I don't remember. And it'll really hurt sometimes. So, but yeah, that's true. But no, we're forming a really good community. With Drago over here, he's really quite literally transforming people's lives with his QHHT. He's helping healing people. I'm actually I'm staying for a couple days after the conference to spend some time with him and do some QHHT.
Nice.
And I've heard a lot of good things from other people about the work he does, and that's kind of where I'm at too. I have to learn how to do the alter integration therapy, which is brand new. Nobody does it.
Oh shoot! I didn't even ask y'all about that. How you integrate everything? Oops, we gotta do another one. But that's a lot of work right there. Is integrating
longer than an entire lifetime. So that's a big, and you can only do it it's really complicated, and I don't even claim, I'm at the bottom of the mountain of of. It's like, let's say like if there were, since there's no class you can take for it, it's like I just started class though, you know. So it's like that figuratively. Like I'm learning about it now, and I'm practicing it, and I'm applying what I learned as much as I can. But for
Yeah.
now, I'm just learning, and yeah, my eventual goal, which I know I will reach because it's part of my destiny here, is to help people integrate altars with like government funded professional clinics. I'll have to start with
Nice.
those government funded clinics. Like I'll have to start somewhere, but eventually we're gonna be
That's
like, look,
great.
you broke these people, you need to pay to fix them. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Exactly. I feel that with our vets for sure out here. Drago, I know you're speaking at the conference. Are you going to be working with any clients? I know with Arkheim afterwards, but are you taking clients at the conference or really just socializing and then speaking?
I've already filled up every spot I possibly have. Months that's where I have no time for myself every day. So like I'm
Aw.
doing what I can for my soul to give as much as I can where I have nothing left. And in the end, when it's all over, I knew I succeeded in my mission.
Aw. Wow. Again, selflessly of service to others.
And the biggest thing that we're here to do when we're all speaking in the same venues and we're here meeting each other, you have to realize that we are mortal enemies, a lot of us in these programs. Like I just got to meet one of my main programmers over at Contact in the Desert, one of me and Arkheim's programmers. And she did some really dark, nasty stuff to us, but I remember I felt nothing but love for her because I told her I forgave her. I looked her in the eyes, and she was in fear that I would hurt her because it's imagine that you met the person that ruined your life and did all the trauma to you, one of them, and then you got to be put face to face with that person in real life. What would the average person do? So you have to get to the point. What I discovered with QHHT is you have to forgive people. You cannot hold it in. You've got to let it go. You've got to see it for a higher perspective. You got to see the lesson you learned in it, what they did for you, how they made you stronger, even though they took everything from you. Look who we are now. Me and Arkheim are so freaking strong that we feel that we're separate from everybody else because we've been through so much dark stuff that we've been molded into the machine and to the soldier we are now. So for me to look her in the eyes and to say that I forgive you, I genuinely mean it. And she didn't expect it. And I seen love in her heart. And she wasn't expecting that. And it lit my heart on fire because if you're programming me, more than likely you're programmed. And you might be operating in an altar as well. So what you're doing isn't who you truly are. I could see who you truly are in the here and now. That's what we call it. That's why Arkheim called it the here and now, because that's who we are outside of all this stuff. That's how we know that we're not in a clone or we're not off on a mission. This is who we are. And just to meet these people, and let's talk about Christy Campbell and Joseph Powell for a minute. Joseph Powell really messed Christy up during these programs, but they got to talk about it. They actually forgave each other. And for me to watch all these people from Darkfleet, Nachtwolf, and Kruger forgive each other, and we can have an open dialogue of what happened and talk in extreme detail about what we did to each other, we can now understand that we're forgiving each other and we're letting it go. Because to hold this kind of weight in your soul will carry on from lifetime to lifetime, and you'll never let it go till you forgive it. So you have to forgive it now. The only true enemy is yourself. If you perceive something as outside of you, you're falling for the illusion, because my enemy is me. Heidi, Arkheim, we are each other. There is no difference. Everybody watching this now, you are me and I am you. You have to understand. Stop treating the people the way you do, because with karma, you're going to get it right back to you, man. So if you can understand that every blade of grass, every animal, the wind, the person you talk the most crap about, they are you, and they are only in your life because they're showing you that that exists within you. And until you forgive it and release it, it will always appear in your life through proxy, through a person, a situation, a relationship, or a job, no matter what. So you have to just forgive people and just let it go, man.
Yes.
Really let it go.
I love this. Are you both going to be on the beach? I can just picture all you hundreds of people activating this heart center. and just blasting the planet.
Not only will we be on the beach, more than likely the government will be there with TR3Bs. I always see TR3Bs. They're always watching us in all the shows. All of us take video.
Mm-hmm.
We all record the government crafts there and other crafts. So yes, not only are we going to be a beacon of light for that show, we're going to send a beam so high through the cosmos that everybody has to see where it's coming from, because we're going to be doing CE5 contacts every single night.
Yeah.
And the last time I did a CE5 contact with that group that we're using for the show every night was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I seen 20 to 25 different ships. Everybody saw them. Everybody. We had a group of around 30 to 40 people. Everyone saw them. And I was teaching them how to connect with them. Like, these are the rules, and like, you should do this, and don't think that they're outside of yourself, and don't think that they can't hear you just because they're up that high in the sky. If it is a non-human craft and it is a light body, consciousness is immediate through quantum entanglement. There is no lag. So if you see this ship coming across the sky like this, you can say, hey, I see you. Please stop. And if it's conscious, it might stop. You can talk to it and ask. You can say, hey, can you start spinning around? Can you start going this direction? I'm going to use my laser. I'm going to point it downwards. If you hear me, can you go this direction? They will start showing you that they hear you. It's freaking amazing.
It's beautiful. It's all here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. I will be there with you in spirit. I will still be on the West, but I'm sure I'm going to see and feel all of you guys. And Arkheim, just again, your book, you can get pre-orders right now. But is that Amazon?
Amazon.com. You can get pre-orders. The book itself, physical copies are available on July 13th.
Okay. Excellent. And I'll add it again below. I know Mr. G added the Disclosure Now link. I know there's live stream tickets for sure if you can't make it to St. Petersburg to see them next week.
We made it so cheap that everyone can afford it no matter what. I've never seen a live stream this cheap on the show ever.
I know. I was really grateful for that. That's why I can't be there in person. So that's awesome. What about after that? Real quick, as I know I keep saying we're winding down and I keep asking questions, but you have this conference, but are there any things else this summer you have going on? You both have busy years.
Oh man, it's just been this book and this conference, and after that it's just hitting the like I have New Earth Light Brigade with my friend Audrey, which is a new show focusing on creating the government for New Earth and helping people understand their sovereignty so we can do that and get rid of this cabal on Earth. And then, of course, I have my Disclosure Now channel, and basically I've just been working at this like way harder. Like I quit my day job. This is what I do now, and it's just like the rubber meets the road right now. I'm working my butt off with trying to get this information out there and just do as much work as possible.
Perfect. Well, congrats on that, and thank you for that. And Drago, you're at the conference, but I know they can see you live full time in Florida, but I'm sure you have a ton of guest speaking coming up as well.
I was offered to speak in February, and basically everybody knows I'm writing books, and the books I've been writing have never been about me. I never wanted to make this about me. It was only Laura Eisenhower that got me to step forward on May 15th of last year, and we started the Rebel Collective show. At that point, I was never going to tell my story. I was always going to be the guy in the background because, again, they threaten to kill everybody I know, and they've kind of proved that to me that is a real phenomenon. So it got to the point where I had to relinquish that fear and just do it, because if I didn't, I felt that I would be selling out and that I didn't do what I was here to accomplish, and I didn't want to die with regrets. So I was offered to talk in April at Alien Events. So basically, for the first time in my life, I had to start writing about me and my experiences. So 5 months, I've been writing 7 days a week for 5 months straight without stopping. And it's affected me interviewing people. I've kind of put that on the back burner. I'm not producing a lot of content right now because I can't. This is the most important thing to prepare for this presentation, because the full disclosure now is the first time I'm telling my story publicly. And this is stuff I've never even talked about. Okay. So I will be writing my presentation up till the day before I present on Tuesday, which is I think the 16th. But like, it's a lot. It's taken everything from me, and all the shows that I did following up to this moment, it was too much. I was going to a different convention a month. And
yeah, you were bouncing all over.
Sometimes 2 or 3 shows a month. So right now, my focus is on this, and I stopped. I didn't plan anything else after this convention. So
Okay.
most of the main conventions, they're before May. So I've done all the big ones. So if there's any other shows I might be going to, it'll all be impromptu. I'll still be going, but right now I will have a lecture that I can start talking about on the circuit. And this will be one lecture. I have 4 different lectures I'm preparing on 4 different subjects. So once I complete them, once this first one's complete, I'm going to start on the Anunnaki one. And then I'm going to be selling that to everybody. But right now, I have too much mental fatigue. My body has broken down already, and I need to take time for myself. So once this presentation is over and this convention is over, I'm going to take a little breather.
Good.
And, pull all the fragments I sent out to help people back to myself, because I need myself back. Because mentally, I'm struggling here. Because 5 months to write your life story is a lot. I don't even know how to put it in a presentation. I'm confused how I can even put my whole life story in a presentation in an hour and 45 minutes. So,
it's going to be beautiful. You both are going to be surrounded by people who support you and who are there for you. So you're going to feel that, and it's just going to flow. So I'm really excited for you.
It's going to be an amazing conference. We have so many amazing people. There's a bunch of other speakers that are here right now listening to this live stream. I've seen a bunch of people chime in.
I know. Hi, Matthew.
One of the hey Matthew, I seen he sent 5 fires on the comment. I love that dude. We actually served together in these programs. Me and him are intimately connected, and he actually dedicated 60 pages in his book about me and our session together and what he discovered. So thank you, Matthew. It's a huge honor to be in your book. It's freaking
he rocks. Well, so do both of you. So thank you both, because this huge event is coming up. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me today, because you helped me to unpack a little bit more, and I really want to normalize these conversations. So thank you both. I hope to meet you in person at some point, but it's nice to connect here.
It's all relative. It'll just happen just like that. Remember, it's relative. So
I know. It's going to happen. Thank you to that beautiful chat. Thanks for talking with each other and for chiming in. I loved seeing all your beautiful shining faces there, and thank you for your support. And I have to do it. But if you like what you see, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. So thank you to everyone here, and thank you both. So
Take care.
See you soon.
Next time, everyone.
Oops.